Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 6. This should be the final part for today for Thursday, May 9th, 2013. I'm Darko. Alright, I'm ready to go. This baby won't stop breathing. Abortionist strangled baby born alive while nurses watched. It says here in 1977 abortion was legal throughout the country during all 9 months of pregnancy. It says when a gynecologist told a teenager, Mary W., that she was 28 weeks pregnant, he suggested that she give the baby up for adoption, as few doctors in the area were willing to perform abortions that late. But Mary was determined, and she managed to find an abortionist on March 2nd, 1977. So it says here that she basically went for a saline abortion, which are seldom performed today because of the danger to the mother and the possibility of live births. But in the 70s and 80s, they were very common, and they were generally used to end pregnancies towards the end of the second trimester. And a saline abortion, a caustic saline solution, is injected into the woman's uterus. It slowly burns and poisons the baby, and then the woman goes through labor, giving birth to a usually dead child. The abortionist injected the saline and then left, leaving the nurses to tend to Mary, which was common for abortion doctors to inject their patients with saline and then leave, forcing the nurses to bear the emotional brunt of the abortion procedures and to dispose of the dead babies. But it says here that in this case, however, Mary gave birth to a living 2-pound, 8-ounce baby girl. At first, the nurse did not realize the baby was still alive as she clamped the cord as normal and placed her in a bucket to be taken to a lab. Then the baby began moving and crying. The nurses gathered around the baby, unsure what to do. Their supervisor, who called the doctor in from home, says here, Mary was not told that her baby had been born alive. The infant was whisked away from her before she realized what had happened. Said all of this came out in testimony at the trial. So I guess when the doctor arrived at the clinic, he was angry. He reportedly chased all the nurses out of the room and made a call to another physician. It goes on here and it says that the law at the time said that 2 doctors need to be present to pronounce a premature baby dead. So the conversation between the 2 doctors was recorded and entered into evidence in the trial. According to the tape, Waddell said, "If we all tell the same story, there will be no trouble. So long as we stand together, no one anywhere can make any accusations anywhere. Do not get squirrely. Just tell them exactly what we've discussed. Just say you went in and there was no heartbeat and you left." So it says here that this other doctor basically asked in a testimony, or said, I said, "Why not just leave the baby alone?" And Waddell said, "This baby can't live or it will be a big mess." So after basically throwing out possibility of throwing the baby into a bucket of water, Waddell began strangling the child in full view of Cornelison and other nurses. No one stopped him. He was quoted saying, "This baby won't stop breathing." Georgian parliament considers abortion ban after impassioned appeal by Orthodox Patriarch. So the Georgian prime minister has said that his government will debate legislation to ban abortion. So it follows an appeal by the Patriarch of the Georgian Orthodox Church for the procedure to be made illegal in the small country. In an Easter Sunday address, the Patriarch called abortion the heinous murder of an innocent creature committed with the decision and intent of parents. A doctor is a direct accomplice to this crime as well. This merciless murder of infants still continues unhindered, and there is no one to protect them, neither state nor society. He says here in a plea to parents, those who do not want to give birth to a child for economic reasons, please do not commit this terrible sin. If you cannot afford raising children, the church will take care of them. Abortion has been banned since ancient times, but as in various other countries, abortion is legalized and even encouraged via mass media and liberal ideology. And referencing back what we were talking about with this, basically immigration flow. It says, he also said abortion needed to be restricted because of the country's below replacement level birth rate. Okay, this is pretty crazy. Libyan Arab Spring making wine from dead bodies. It says, wish you would tell us more on the subject of making wine from bodies of the dead and even the living. How could this happen? So after the Devil's Arab Spring has succeeded in turning Libya into a totally failed state, the West mainstream media dropped it from its interest in concentrating on Syria, the country that stands an obstacle into their queue of countries to be democratized into failed states. And a shocking side of democracy the Arab Spring brought to Libya, it says here, that in an interview with human rights activists, the head of the International Association for Democracy in Libya and representative of Libyan Tribal Social Council, It goes on here, and it says that this was just a tiny infraction compared with daily human rights abuses of both the living and the dead. The entire world had witnessed the desecration of graves, maiming of dead bodies. So, it says this is what's happening from the start of this crisis of Libya, of what had happened since the liberation of Libya, as they call it. They said that this basically doesn't surprise them. So, pretty crazy, man. Boiling dead bodies to make wine. So they're witnessing a humanitarian crisis. A genocide of Libyan youth, says hospitals are crowded with victims of poisoning caused by locally made wine. Toxic materials were added to it by mistake. They exceeded 1,100 cases. Afghan minister vows punishment for fainting girls. So, Afghanistan's education minister has threatened to punish schoolgirls who claim to suffer from alleged poisonings that many officials believe are actually temporary psychological illnesses. Scores of girls' schools over recent years have been seeing mysterious mass faintings, nausea, and similar symptoms that are often blamed by police and local media on poisoning by Taliban insurgents or gas leaks, but no laboratory evidence of poison or other toxins has been found at the schools. It says, no deaths have been occurred. In the latest case, 200 girls were reported to have been poisoned at a school in Kabul on May 1st. Causing an outbreak of screaming, stomach aches, and vomiting. It says, from now on, if I find anyone saying I'm poisoned and the poisoning is not provided by the hospital, that's interesting, I will punish the student, says the education minister. I will punish the teacher, I will punish the head teacher, and I will punish the school director. So we've also heard reports of the Taliban and that blowing up schools, because they know when they get their women into these schools, and they liberalize them, and they can break up the families and turn them into good slaves and good puppets too. Bilderberg Kingmaker Kissinger jokes about President Hillary Clinton at elite gathering. Clinton accepts Distinguished Leadership Award and lauds liberal global order. Bilderberg luminary Henry Kissinger joked at an elite dinner party in Washington, D.C. last night that Hillary Clinton should run for president in 2016. Quote, at least 4 secretaries of state became president, said Kissinger. I really I want to tell Hillary that when she misses the office, when she looks at the histories of secretaries of the state, there might be hope for a fulfilling life afterwards. She says here that Kissinger also joked that he had thought up all kinds of schemes to get around constitutional protections that prevented him as a foreign-born citizen from becoming president himself. You should take it serious, because he says in a recent data dump by WikiLeaks, it says here, Bilderberg stalwart is quoted as saying, before the Freedom of Information Act, I used to say at meetings, the illegal we do immediately, the unconstitutional takes a little bit longer. Suzanne Rice honored with Great American Award night before Benghazi hearing. U.S. Ambassador to UN Susan Rice was honored Tuesday night with a 2013 Louis Martin Great American Award for her work in advancing U.S. interests. The American individual citizen interests? No. Global corporations, people like technocrats like Kissinger and Brzezinski and them. Strengthening the world's common security and prosperity. In other words, building a global order and promoting respect for human rights. Right. That's basically exploiting minorities for political control. But actually, Rice was one of the individuals that came up as far as the Benghazi hearings and trial hearings and that, what happened. The guy that was bringing up, remember we were covering in the first video, he was actually raising questions. He was raising questions in his department about things. I think it was, it was the Secretary of the State Department about what was going on, and then he was basically demoted. So then it was, I think it was at the heads of her. I mean, the main thing that you have to remember about the whole what happened and with Ambassador Stevens and all that was that they were arming terrorists, and these more radicalist elements of these terrorists that they were arming ended up killing the same person that was arming them, the embassy and all that. So Mao Zedong's granddaughter worth more than $815 million, according to China's New Fortune magazine. So the appearance of the granddaughter of Mao Zedong, founding father of Communist China, on the list of country's richest citizens prompted online accusations of hypocrisy on Thursday. So now in her 30s, ranked 242 with personal wealth estimated at 5 billion won, $815 million. So is the granddaughter of Mao and the third wife, He Zam. So in 2001, she founded a bookstore in Beijing selling publications about Mao and promoting red culture after studying at the University of Pennsylvania in the United States. Yeah, I do always find that interesting how Marxism and communism is so promoted in colleges and revered. But other forms of systems that actually worked for the people, I mean, that actually proved that it worked for people, those things are considered to be evil dictatorships. Other types of systems such as these, communism, that they tend to be promoted. I'm not talking about just a non-authoritative communism like they had in Spain and Catalonia. I'm talking about authoritative one. Appalling irresponsibility. Senior scientists attack Chinese researchers for creating a new strain of influenza virus in a laboratory. Experts warn of danger that the new viral strains created by mixing the bird flu virus with human influenza could escape from a laboratory to cause a global pandemic, killing millions of people. So the eugenicists, I'm sure they won't lose any sleep over that. Startling new evidence that the swine flu pandemic is man-made. So we already, it's not surprising because that we know that the swine flu pandemic was man-made. So did leak from a laboratory cause swine flu pandemic? Some strain of influenza was released by accident 3 decades ago. This is from back in 2009. Flu during pregnancy hikes risk of bipolar disorder, but risk is pretty small. So what's interesting is that they target what? This is an actual thing. Pregnant women need a flu shot. They always target women, pregnant women and children, even the elderly. Like I said, the future, which they don't have enough jobs for, the older people who are on, who are retired, they're useless eaters, they're not contributing to the system anymore. They're just parasites. And then, of course, people that are bringing life into the world, pregnant mothers, they all got to go. So HPV vaccine price to plummet for poor countries. Ooh, great. Merck GlaxoSmithKline will offer them for less than $5. A very humanitarian and, philanthropic? But they did the same thing with the swine flu vaccine. Remember that? GlaxoSmithKline will donate 50 million vaccines that people in, quote, developed countries did not want, thanks to all those people out there that said don't take it. They're giving them to poor nations. So, to protect the population, right? Protect population reduction measures. San Francisco loses fight to put warnings on phones. Industry sued to avoid listing potential radiation risks. So San Francisco is giving up its fight to become the first city in the U.S. to require that cell phones come with warnings about the potential health risk of radiation. The telecom companies, the government knows about these risks. They definitely know about it, and they won't. You won't know until about 2020, 2030 when they come out with this stuff. The city tried to put such a law in the books in 2011, but the industry blocked it in the court and then won again in federal appellate court. So a writer from Ars Technica says cell phone users should not be upset. He notes that all phones on the market must abide by FCC safety levels for radiation exposure, right? They're low levels or healthy doses of radiation. Although a number of small preliminary studies have suggested potential dangers, larger and more comprehensive works indicate that any potential risk takes decades to be felt, and cell phones simply haven't been in use. They're not in long enough for us to know for sure. So yeah, just more experimenting, right? On the guinea pigs. Interior Secretary hydraulic fracturing is essential. So, yeah, the Interior Secretary, who came from REI Sports, just started a new job, but basically said that hydraulic fracturing or fracking is an essential technology, and that it can be done safely and responsibly. Again, it's kind of like you're stealing from the future to pay for the present. They go in there and say, "Oh yeah, this is great. Hydraulic fracturing has led to levels of oil and natural gas production not seen in decades." Well, f that. Why don't you put money and stuff into technology producing better solar panels, better wind, better hydrostatic power? There's all kinds of things that can be utilized, but this is what they push. This unsustainable crap that they can put a meter on. She knows damn well that this is going to hurt the Earth. What they're doing, this deep drilling, is going to permanently damage the Earth, and we will see repercussions, whether it's sinkholes, droughts, whatever. It's all just a big business, right, bitch? Over 100 dead birds found in Danville in Pennsylvania County. So basically the parking lot became a graveyard for more than 100 birds. Toxic benzene in the air after tar sand spill. 5 weeks after the ExxonMobil Pegasus pipeline ruptured and spewed thousands of barrels of tar sands oil in the Mayflower, residents are struck on their own as they suffer from health problems from noxious black cloak. And lastly, radioactive water was released into Lake Michigan before the Palisades nuclear plant shut down on Sunday. Great, thank you.